One of the best ways that your future potential players can figure out if the game that you're making is a good fit for them is not through Steam page optimization, it's not through having good swanky trailers, but it's actually through something called game demos. You're probably familiar with it, there's a giant Steam Next Fest always 3 times a year that just celebrate demos, but what makes a good demo, what makes a bad demo, should you do a demo, and what are some things that you need to consider with just demos in general? How do you make them? And I want to go over that in this video because I think demos are by far the best thing you can do as well for marketing your game, because nothing will ever sell your game as well as just someone playing the game early already or just figuring out before they have actually given you money of, hey, is this game going to be interesting for me? Yes or no? Is it something that I actually like and I want to enjoy and put like more hours into? Now, there are 2 main approaches to demos. First, you have the one that is before your game has ever launched. So this is purely a marketing demo and you want to use it to convince more and more players that, hey, my game is good, you're going to love it when the full game releases. And then also you have demos that are after your game's release that serve more as a, hey, try before you buy approach. And you don't want to have people like refund your game because, hey, the store page versus the actual game was so completely different, they had no way that was coming. I'm going to be mainly focusing on the pre-release demo because I think that is the most important part for us game developers, because definitely the meta has changed a lot where everything, like I said, Steam Next Fest and other festivals heavily relies on having demos and having demos early and then using that to iterate on those demos and treat your demo almost as a separate release. This is becoming even more apparent with what used to be the prologue meta, where developers would buy a separate Steam credit to basically make their demo a full-on game. Steam has now updated it and you can have dedicated store pages, dedicated reviews for your demos. So it's obvious demos are important because of, like what I said, it allows people to try out, hey, is this game for me? It also serves as a way for you to get some feedback. Now, this doesn't mean that your demo is a playtest. I want to yell this very clearly. The first build of your demo that you upload, it should already be a good and bug-free experience. When I was going through Steam Next Fest and I was playing like your guys' demos, one of the biggest offenders was often that, hey, the demo was put live like 2 days before the Steam Next Fest and the game actually didn't work. There were soft locks, there were just plain old crashes and people couldn't play the full demo. You don't want to do that. Do not treat your demo as a playtest, but instead treat it as your actual way to, I want to sell this game, which means that you need to have a quality demo already. Now, the question is, do you need a demo? Overall, yes, I would say if you can have a demo, do one. It doesn't always make sense for certain genres and like depending on your development timeline. So Unicycle Pizza Time, we don't have a demo for it because honestly, the game is kind of small and not that deep, so it doesn't make sense to have a dedicated demo for that. Also with a 1-month dev cycle, if we would then have to do all of the stuff for that demo basically to create that separate build, to make all of the store page assets for the separate store page and everything, that wasn't going to make sense. But there are a lot of genres where I think it's a must-have to have a demo and have it early and have it be good and expand upon the demo even throughout your development cycle. Some genres like this is, for example, basically any strategy game, city builders, colony sims, whatever, those always should have a demo. You see it also for games like horror games, for example. There is like the shorter beginning demos of like 10-15 minutes. That is another good one. I think for basically almost every genre, you can make a demo, and I think you should make a demo if you can do it. Of course, there will be a little bit of an extra load, but I'll talk about it in a second of how do you exactly do it. And I hear you say right now that, hey, okay, sounds good, Marnix, let's make a demo. I do have a few caveats. First of all, is that the players for your demos have become more and more demanding. We see that with things like the Steam Next Fest demos, the quality of a demo has kept going up and up and up. And we're looking at certain games, like if you're making a high quality level, like city builder game, for example, or like strategy game, you often have demos that are, it's sometimes ridiculous, but it's like 2 to like 4 hours, even more I've seen sometimes, where it's almost a full game standalone. And then, yeah, you suddenly have to make that in just a demo. But those demos do perform really well because it gives content creators, which is one of the main reasons as well that you should do those early demos, gives them more reason to play your games, to cover it and all of that. For games like, for example, horror games is another common one. This gets harder because horror games are often at most like 2 hours long. So here, yeah, you're looking at demos that you want to do like 10 minutes is probably what you're thinking, but don't do that. Your demo should still also be at least 20 minutes, I would say. And the reason for that goes back to, like I said, those content creators. they need to be able to squeeze out a video. And of course, we have, speaking as a content creator myself, we have a degree in Yapology. So I can stretch out like how long actually I'm playing the game and then talk about every single like minute detail about the game just to pad out a bit more time. But it generally doesn't make sense. Most YouTubers and Let's Players, they play demos for 20 minutes to like an hour long. And if you don't have a demo that is long enough for that, if it's just a 5-minute demo, then chances are that, well, they simply can't make a good video out of it and they won't cover it. So that is an important thing. Have enough content in your demo. Another important thing is I would leave out story as much as you can and just focus on the gameplay mechanics and the vibes. Story is one that, okay, even if you're making a narrative-based game, it's kind of meh because you're setting up this little like 20-minute slice of your game, and then people may have to wait another few months or even years until the rest of the game is done. And it's also not ideal. Focus instead on the gameplay and showing that, hey, this is the visuals, this is the gameplay, this is what you'll be experiencing, what are the vibes of the game. I think that is more important to focus on than the actual story. And then one more thing here, we talked about it with trailers before, is that if you're making a demo, treat it more also like a vertical slice. So vertical slice is what you would go to a publisher with, where you often don't start at the beginning. You can do this, but if you want a good demo, you would give the player a bit more already than the absolute pure beginning, because you don't want to bore them. You have this one shot, this one opportunity, this like 10 minutes or something that someone has just downloaded the game and they need to figure out, do I like this, yes or no? Am I going to enjoy this? So if you can put the cool explosions, put everything up front, and then in the later full game, you can, okay, work a bit more towards it with, hey, having an intro level. Maybe you have to unlock things a bit more slowly, but getting the action lined up in the beginning of your demo is always a win as well. Now, you also may be wondering, how do I make a demo? And this is why I'm making this video specifically. I want you to keep it in mind that, hey, I may need to make a demo at the beginning of your dev cycle already, because what we did for Forge Industry, and it's really easy, and we did something similar for Songs of Everjade when we also made a demo, is we added something called flags, where basically in our Unity we can check a single box. It says like make demo build, and then in our code we just added like a flag of like, hey, is this unlocked for Forge Industry, for example, part of the demo, yes or no? If yes, then okay, you can unlock it. If no, we just gray it out and you almost naturally stop further progression into the game and you have a cap for your demo. You generally don't want to make things too hacky. You want to keep it all neatly integrated, because if you end up making like a completely separate project almost for your demo, it gets a lot harder to do things like bug fixing and whatever. If we fix the bug for Forge Industries like main game, we immediately automatically fix the bug for the demo as well. So keep that in mind. Try and think about your like general project structure a little bit already of, hey, are there ways that I can easily block off certain areas, for example, and then literally just check a box basically of close everything off that is outside of the demo scope and then make a new build. Doing that is a lot easier. Something else that you should include here, and honestly you should include it always in your game, but I want to repeat it again, is analytics. That was a big mistake that we did. We didn't implement analytics on the first versions of our demos or first version of our builds. So if things went wrong, I'm talking purely about bug reports, we didn't know. Always add that. You can do it completely for free, super easy in Unity at least. I'm certain there are other ways to do it in other engines as well. And on top of that, take it a step further and try to track a bit of, okay, how far do players get into my game? Because Steam gives you some automated tracking as well of like, hey, how long do people play the demo? And this is basic. It gives you an idea of, oh, 7 minutes average playtime or whatever. And you can be like, oh, this is not good. And yeah, you're right, but it doesn't give you enough granularity to see where do people go wrong basically. What is the point that they're like, I'm quitting? Something you can do here is, once again, Unity has support for this natively with like one of their solutions, tracking things like, for example, you reach a certain level, you get a certain unlock, you reach a certain part of the tutorial, and then you can see, okay, where do most people fall off? And that gives you more options as well to keep updating the demo and tweaking things, making it better. You do want to push more updates to your demo. Now, don't make your demo, of course, like the main development priority. I would suggest, if there's no like big events going on and things like that and giant pushes, do like once a month basically update the demo with like the more recent version and things like that, but don't do like an every week update unless there's some critical bug. And then of course I'll say it again, if you do push those updates, and also once again try and see if you can do some influencer pushes already. I've made videos about influencer marketing before. Just send them an email, be like, hey, I have this cool game that I think you're interested in. I just published a new update to our demo or whatever, or I have an early build for you for the demo that's going up next week. If you want to give it a shot, here you go. Here's a Steam key or whatever. Do something like that as well. I think that's very important. And that leaves us with the final question of, should you get rid of demos? Like, this is one that you often see as well, where games take their demos offline again. The corporate correct answer, the like financially right answer to this is yes. The moment you release your game, you take the demo offline. I personally, and this is me personally as me, Marnix, who also does play video games, I don't like that. That is why we kept the demo up for Forge Industry as well. The thought behind this is kind of, okay, it's easier for people to just get the demo, and then if the game's not for them, okay, you lose out on a sale, versus they just buy the game and a lower percentage of those people will refund the game because it's like, it's extra effort. Some people will definitely still go through it, but if you're looking at it from like an actual like data analysis and super research of like what is the absolutely best performing thing, you should always take your demos offline once your game is released. I don't suggest it. It's also like, you're a small dev at the end of the day. You're not some giant publisher optimized studio, for example. I think you get a lot of goodwill though by having demos. But once again, this is my stuff. You can decide that for yourself, but people like Crisostomo, for example, who talk about game marketing, they will always suggest you to take the demo offline, basically. I've also seen some larger studios actually take the demo offline whilst the game is not out yet and then just bring it back at like a later event, a few months later. This is something that you're honestly not like big enough to really care about this. The thought that they have behind it is, okay, they want to take the demo offline, to go through all the feedback and then publish a new version of the demo and do the more press outreach. The thing is, they have full-on PR campaigns and things like that. They can take the hit of having the demo offline for a certain amount of time and then bring it up later and then do a whole press campaign again with it. You don't have the resources for that because they often do it with like paid integration, paid ads and paid events. Not as useful for you, so I would just say keep the demo online as long as you can. It's just, I think, a better approach overall. And yeah, that's basically it. Overall, don't overcomplicate making your demo. Just keep it in mind that, hey, you should have one. It should be good enough that it doesn't feel like a scrappy playtest and someone can actually play your demo start to finish without it failing. That's something that I noticed that you guys don't always fully seem to playtest your demos when you put them on Steam and you just treat them as a literal beta test. Don't do that. Maybe one final mention as well for, should you have a separate Steam demo page, yes or no? The verdict from Steam themselves after looking at the data from the latest Steam Nexus and all of that is that there's a little bit of an improvement, but it's almost negligible of how much the difference is between having the separate demo page, yes or no. You can go into it. It's like, if you have bad reviews, yeah, you want to take it offline again. If you have good reviews, yeah, but you're not losing out on a lot. But in general, it doesn't really matter that much. Anyways, I hope this helped you a lot. Go and make your demo and stay subscribed to this channel and maybe join our Discord, because we often play your guys' demos and give feedback on them as well. So if you want to get notified of that, we do that in our Discord, that we send messages of, hey, send us your demos and we'll cover them on our live stream. So if that's something you're interested in, there's a link for that down below. Apart from that, we make 2 videos every week talking about game development and the things that we learn along the way. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe as well, as it just makes me happy. And that's all I had to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!